Hi, I'm Kyla.
Hi, I'm Hinty. Welcome to Your Relationshift. Join in our conversation where we explore
The nuance and beauty of Torah's perspective on relationships.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this interview episode with Shaina Glick, our newest recruit on the Relationshift organization. We are so happy for you to be here, Shaina. Introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about you. Tell me, I don't know, where you live, what it's like being Shaina, just a little something.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited to be here on the podcast. And my name is Shaina Glick. I live in Crown Heights, and I am a freelance writer and relationship coach. And I'm home with my baby. So between all of that, that's what fills my day.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So great. So if you could just start us off with what brought you to relationship? Like, what was your first touching point with relationship?
And that would have been probably around 4 years ago, when a good friend of mine was taking the relationship coach training. And at the time, I was in a totally different world, like not really familiar. Everything relationship sounded like very sweet, but not really practical. And the more that I heard about it, eventually I decided to try it out, and was really blown away by how positively it impacted my life. And um, I loved it so much that I wanted to take the training to immerse myself even more and to be able to give that forward to other women.
I love that. So was your first introduction, so just shout out to that friend, whoever she was. Thank you. Because now we have Shaina. But so what was your first, was it a workshop? Was it a retreat? What did you first try to hear more about it?
So when I was thinking of doing some coaching, I decided to take a workshop first. So my first introduction was really a workshop with Sarah Gitta in Crown Heights. I actually missed most of the workshop, but I listened to the recordings. I came to the last class, and that was my first like full on introduction. But I had like been learning a lot through my friend um, before that, and then I did coaching with one of the coach trainees at the time. A shout out
Wow.
to Becky, Coach
Love
Becky,
it. Yes.
and that's when my journey really started.
Wow. Wow. So you knew you wanted to get some personal coaching. You went to this workshop with Sarah Gitta. You opted for a coach in training, which is amazing. I'm like so excited to bring that to our listeners, right? Shout out to all of our coaches in training who are amazing. And Becky led you here. Amazing. So
Yeah.
cool. Did you ever come on a retreat?
I was never on like a participant retreat. I later joined the the coaches retreat 2 years ago, which was really special experience
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
with everybody. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So I want to bring to our listeners, Shaina, the incredible glory of who Shaina is. And I know that you spent some time thinking about like what you wanted to share. So there's so many different parts, obviously, of every single woman's journey, and our journey never really ends. And there's lots of challenges that are always coming up, but I know that there is a specific challenge that you're going through, and relationship really helped you.
Yeah. So when I was discussing with my husband, we were talking about like what would be a good topic to bring to the podcast. Um, First of all, it's just so nice to think back and remember how things were, and where things were getting stuck, and just how much things have changed thanks to relationships. So that was really special opportunity and experience to look at together. And what I was thinking is really to start before I came to relationship, with the challenge that I was going through, and kind of look at like what was missing for me. And then this was actually when we were trying to have our second child, struggling with infertility, and then to kind of go to how things were when we were trying for our third, and kind of compare and contrast like how things changed. So I think that would be a powerful way to explore. So yeah, so when we were trying for Masya, my second child, things were very challenging. We were going through fertility treatment for many months, and nothing was really working out. Definitely not as smoothly as it had the first time.
Did you need fertility treatments for the first time?
Yes, yes. So with my son, we also need fertility treatment, but it was, one or two cycles, and then I was expecting, so it was
Baruch
a little
Hashem.
taste of it, but definitely nothing like the second time. So um, so we were going through fertility treatment for many months, and the fertility treatment was very stressful, as you can imagine, on any couple. There's a lot that goes into it, all the hormones and appointments and medications, and um, it's challenging, on a regular day, but especially when it's not working out and you're doing it again and again. And we found some new challenges that were coming up that I hadn't experienced the first time. And looking back at that time, I think what was hardest for me was that I felt very alone. I felt like me and my husband were experiencing this in two totally different ways.
Hmm.
And um, and for me, that was a big part of what was hard. And our coping mechanisms were also very different. So, um, where, every time a cycle failed, I wanted to start right away on another cycle, which you could do like 3 days after you find out the cycle failed, you can start again. And for me, that gave me like something to lift me up that I'm trying again. I'm not like we're not stuck anymore. We're already starting on the next one, on the next
Right.
cycle. And for my husband, that was like way too overwhelming. To After a while, it just got way too much to start again right away. So I think like looking back, I remember feeling like his struggles with the fertility treatment was so inconvenient for me. Like
Right.
here I'm going through so much and like just trying to, get through another day, another cycle. And there was like no space for him to also be struggling. And I
Because
think
you're
like,
the one who's going through everything.
right, right.
Right.
You would think it's really just the woman who's going through it. But the truth is, and something that I didn't fully appreciate at the time, and now I could really appreciate it much more, is that, he's having his own experience of this, and that's completely valid.
Right.
That he has his process, and for sure, like this could be, a struggle for him too in his own way. So yeah, so things got to a point where my husband was like needing to take a break from the treatment, and I could not imagine taking a break. Um, each time a cycle failed, I was already like calculating how much time, how old will can how like when would I be due and how old would the baby be? How old will my son be when the baby would be born? And I was very
Right.
focused on like how many months apart, how many years apart they would be. And so it's like now we're gonna choose to take a break. Like here, things were taking so long and that was completely out of our control, but now we're choosing to make it take, even longer. And he didn't have like a timeline of how long he wanted to take a break for. It was just, take a break. So that was probably like the peak of the hardship. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, like I kind of realized that, I asked, some people for advice, but I kind of came to this like realization, like I have to take a break. Like I can't keep going if he wants to take a break, but it didn't feel like it was a choice, and it didn't feel like it was kind of like this was like further victimizing me in this like big struggle that was going on. It's like now like I have to deal with even more, and
Right.
um,
Make you
and
feel even more alone. Make you feel even more. Wow.
Yeah.
Was there also like a financial strain? I would have mentioned that would also weigh in.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fertility struggle like impacts every area of your life. It can really take a toll on finances, of course. Each cycle is, money that went to the garbage, and the emotional roller coaster, and it can also take a toll on intimacy. Um, it's just really puts life on hold. And for anyone out there struggling, my heart goes out to you, and I hope that this podcast could be helpful in some way. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that was, I guess, when I'm looking back at this is like pre-relationship, I didn't have any tools, um, any of the relationship tools. And one thing that I'm noticing could have been so helpful for me to really fully understand, had I had a relationship coach at the time, would have been to really understand what it means to give, to like truly respect your husband, which in relationships we define that by giving space and value. So, if I would have really been able to do that, to give my husband space for his experience in going through this fertility and whatever that means for him and how he wants to cope with that, and also to value him as a person and basically like not judge the way that he's going about handling it. So let's say, for example, for me, if I was struggling, I would turn to a therapist or to a support group, and that was my way of helping me cope with this immense struggle. And so when my husband wanted to take a break, that's what I thought. Like instead of taking a break, why don't you go talk to someone and figure out what how to move through this instead of just like shutting it out and taking a break. So I definitely didn't understand where, I didn't have, I didn't really have respect for his way of handling it and or space for how he was handling it. So, um, yeah, that was like one aspect that I was thinking about. Um, and the other one was really just noticing how much of like I was really in this victim mindset, which it is also a really challenging time, and I understand why it was so challenging for me. But it's just really, it makes it even more challenging when it feels like there's nothing that you could do to improve your situation. So when things are out of
Right.
your control, um, and whatever is in your control is not even, I can't even choose to go and do the things that make me feel like things are moving along. That was just a really, really hard place to be, of just like there's nothing that I could do to change things. Looking back now, and with the relationship perspective, we always look for where what's in our power to change in a situation. So very often, and even someone who's not going through fertility struggles, I feel like this is something that people could relate to, of circumstances that you're going through that feel like they're out of your control, or someone is, if your husband is going through something, any mental health struggle or any struggle in general, that just feels like it's out of your control and not, it could be really easy to fall into this victim mindset or victim mode of like, there's nothing that I could do. You feel helpless and resentful. Um, and what I've learned with relationships, and I see really helps a lot of women, is when we could look at like what is in our control, and where could we take ownership of whatever is happening, and what do we want to do to create the reality that we want. So
So powerful. Such
yeah,
a powerful moment. Like, I mean, I definitely know for myself in my story, feeling so hopeless and my hands are tied and he has to be the one to change. And like, I wish I could do something, but there's nothing I can do here. Right. And then for my coach to say, no, there's something for you to do here. Not in a way of criticism, but more just like there's always something for you to do. Was such a motivating factor for me. It just felt like a huge relief to know that there was something that I could do. I don't have to feel helpless, which is such a scary place for a woman to feel. So I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. And often when someone would hear this, someone that's not so familiar with relationships, that might sound like more work for you, or like why is it something that you have to do, or why are you taking ownership for his problem? Maybe he just really needs to get help. Um, but the reality of it, and when you're actually doing the work, is it's actually really empowering to know that there is something, like it's good news to know that there's something that you can do to improve the situation. And that doesn't mean that there's never, outside factors that could use improving too, but we look at what is in our control, and that's where our power is. And so, I wish that I had that, was able to have that kind of support during that time. Um, just to finish that part of the story, we did end up taking a break. And during that time, I was working on, some alternative healing things. And I was incredibly, Baruch Hashem, able to heal whatever was going on. And I was able to conceive naturally after that, which was
Wow.
really, yeah, Baruch Hashem.
That's
But
like miraculous.
yeah, yeah, Baruch
Wait, I
Hashem.
just want to take a moment for that because that's incredible. So what I'm hearing you do, even though you didn't have relationship support at the time, and maybe you were feeling really helpless because your husband said we have to take a break, and now like you respected it, but like not respect in a way of seeing space and value, but kind of like I just have to do what he says. So maybe it wasn't obviously the best, but you were feeling probably like this is the best for us right now. Like I don't really have a choice. But then you were still taking care of yourself and looking into alternative options. And then Baruch Hashem, salvation came through that. Like, what do I love about that? Because I find that so many times I'll be speaking with a client and you could hear like the tunnel vision that comes up for women sometimes. We're like, there's so much going on. There is this challenge. This is the way to figure it out, right? And that's kind of where you were at. Like if we don't do this medically, if I don't get the treatments, if we don't start right now, then nothing's going to happen. But really, there's a creator. Hashem is the one who takes care of everything and definitely is the one who impregnates women either naturally or medically. It doesn't matter which. And so, like, once you open up that tunnel and you don't have to have that one way that something is going to happen, it's almost like you created a vessel for something else to happen a different way.
Right? Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is amazing to see. At the time, I would say I definitely was not, experiencing it that way. Like I felt very much like I was forced to take this break, and obviously, I went along with it, but I wasn't happy about it. Um, but but to look back and see that, that was actually what gave the space for me to find other options. And I never, knew that was possible for me until I did take the time to do that. So, and I couldn't have done that if we were continuing the medical route. So, um, yeah, eventually, that did, Baruch Hashem, go away. But just to kind of illustrate just how challenging that time was. So yeah, so soon after that, when my daughter was just a couple of months old, I that's when I reached out for coaching. So I had been like hearing about relationships all throughout the pregnancy, and then decided to go for it after she was born. So, um, so the whole time, while I was working on other things in my coaching sessions, but I kept thinking back to this really difficult time that we went through and like how relationships could have helped. And that's where I was kind of starting to make those connections of understanding that like if I had this perspective about my husband and his journey going through it, um, and also so many of the other tools of relationship, trust, the connection. Probably could list off a bunch that could have been so helpful during that time, that really could have made a big difference. So this was just, I kept just thinking back to it, even though, I was working on other things. And then when it came time to try for my third, um, I, Baruch Hashem, already had this knowledge that I could conceive naturally if I, worked on those alternative methods. And I was very conscious of that, from when I was ready to like work on my health in that way, I was, working on that because I didn't want to ever get to a place where I'm like so desperate that we just need to do fertility treatment. I wanted to just, give time for things to happen, on their own. And, um, and at a certain point, when from the time when I was like consciously, hoping that things would fall into place. 6 months passed since then, and I still wasn't expecting. So at that point, I wanted to. We knew that we didn't want to do fertility treatment. We, Baruch Hashem, didn't have to, and also because it was such a difficult experience. The last time, like we knew that we wanted to kind of go a different route. Um, So 6 months after that, so I was ready to do something to help make it happen, right? So it wasn't going to be fertility treatment to me. I wanted to do, a segula. So I had, a list of different segulas that I was excited to try. It happens to be I missed out on the last by my second. So right before I did get pregnant, Baruch Hashem, I actually did a Tarsa Mishpacha series, review series where I hosted and had a teacher come teach, and that was in an effort to do like a segula to help um, have the bracha for children. And right after that, I Baruch Hashem did get pregnant. I actually had a miscarriage during that time, but then
Wow.
got pregnant the next cycle again, Baruch Hashem, with my daughter. So to me, like this is it felt very like you do a Teres Mishpacha for me. Like I had this personal experience. I did a Teres Mishpacha review and got pregnant right after. So it felt like very tangible to me. Like, okay, if I'm ready to do something like this is what I want to do. I want to host a review series, and hopefully that will bring the bracha again. I had a whole bunch of other segulas that I was thinking like that's just very much my style. Like I like to do things. It makes me feel like it's like helps it feel more tangible that I'm like doing something, working towards a goal. Especially it being that we weren't going to be doing fertility treatment. This was our first time really trying without fertility treatment. So even though I knew that it could happen, it still felt a little bit not so like real. So the segulas was what was going to help me feel like I'm like doing something. And when I came to my husband with all these ideas that I had, he was very taken aback and overwhelmed by all these ideas and my excitement. He's like, whoa, whoa, like what just happened here? Um, and like I had been thinking that I didn't realize that he would have a hard time with it at all. So it didn't even like I was surprised by his reaction. I thought at this point I already had relationship tools, and I knew like I didn't want to be pushy about it or just wanted to give him space. I was like maybe I'm coming with like a little bit too much pressure. So I really thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like I have to do this. I just really want to do it. So I'll come with like that. This is like a desire. Um,
Mm.
And I was still, my husband was like not really ready to have that conversation at all. To him, it was like opening up a can of worms, and he was not ready to go back there. Um, and tried a few times, and it was not happening. So that's when I brought this this question to Saragetta, like, what do I do? Because on the one hand, I don't want to be, I don't want to force anything on him. I want to respect where he's at the same time, this is something that's really important to me. So, doing nothing or like not doing the segulas felt like what am I doing? I'm just kind of doing the same thing that I did the last 6 months. So how can I feel like this is getting closer or I'm working towards it? Sargita reminded me that Shalom is the biggest keili for bracha. So instead of looking at all these segulas that I had in mind as like this will be the keili for the bracha, which very likely they could be, beautiful keili for the bracha, but in my situation where my husband's at, if that's going to compromise our Shalom Bayis or, my husband having what he needs, then maybe that is not the right time for those segulas. And what if I could focus on my Shalom Bayis as the keili for the bracha that I'm looking to bring about? So so that was like, it was really helpful to hear and helped me kind of like let go of needing to do something specific. Um,
Uh,
although it wasn't so easy, right? Like at first, it does
no.
come naturally to me to do something and feel like I'm like actually doing something. Just focusing on my shalom bias feels like what I'm doing all the time, and like it's not so tangible. But the truth is that Hashem knows what's in our heart. Hashem knows what we're doing, and the same Hashem who gives the bracha through, the shir or whatever other segula people might want to do, is the same Hashem that wants the shalom in my home to be priority. So that was my that's what I was focusing on. Um,
Wait, can we just pause for a second? That's
yeah,
amazing because, like, what I'm hearing is, for all those people out there who are studying bitachon, how to work on your trust in Hashem more, it's so easy to look at a segula and say, like, okay, so this is me doing my ishtadlus, and I'm like making a keili for Hashem to give this to me, and what I'm hearing from you is, so you heard from someone, right? You heard from Saragita that this is also a segula, right? Like this is also a keili for bracha, but there is something about it being not exactly what was either written or you had heard or you had worked with before, and so you had to create a keili. And in a way, there was a lot more bitachon involved in leaning on Hashem and just building that keili instead of feeling like I'm actually doing this, like I'm making this happen. There's like a shift there that's so huge.
yeah, yeah, and it did take time. I kind of went back and forth a little bit. Like I tried thinking, like maybe I could do the share in a way that maybe my friend could host it and I'll just participate, or I was still kind of attached to that idea for a little while. It took some time for me to really come to a place where I felt like this is my keili, and Hashem knows exactly what I'm doing, um, and I really could appreciate just what a gift I was giving my husband to give him that space, um, and also myself, so that we can go through this challenge with our shalom bias intact and not all the stress that we had experienced previously.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
huge. Yeah. So I'm hearing you like going a little bit back and forth, but trying to lean into it. And then what?
yeah. So it took a couple of months, and during that time, it was not always easy. My husband also wasn't really ready to talk about it at all. So it was really something a journey that I was on my own, of just, you know, wanting this, of course my husband wanted another child, but wasn't something he was ready to like focus on or work towards. So just being in that experience was hard to be in that on my own. Um, and it took effort and intention to really think about, what I do want to share, and if I'm feeling an intense feeling, to maybe bring it up with some of my um, coaching colleagues or friends, um, or and there were times when it was just really hard, and I knew at any time I could, I'm free to bring it up, and I'm free to talk to my husband about it. Question was just like, is that going to serve me and our relationship? Um, so I remember a time where I really just wanted to talk about it. And I brought it up to my husband, when do you think you'll be ready to talk about it? And he was like, just not really there. He was like, oh, maybe tomorrow or another time. And in that moment, I was able to bring myself back to when I was asking him, it was kind of like a little pressuring, like, I really need to talk about this. Um, and then, a few minutes later, I was able to like bring myself back and say, like, I don't have to talk about it, but it would be really nice if we could talk about it. So I was able to kind of move into more of a desire rather than this like heavy need, which was a big win for me at the time.
Oh, in the moment, you were able to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
like a minute
huge. So that
later.
means you had been working on it. You had been working on like making that transfer from like the
Yeah,
desperate need, expectation, heaviness to this is something I would love, I would desire, I would like. It was lighter. And in the moment, you're able to switch that.
yeah. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is really just the process of like how how this was what this was like for me, and I'm hoping that people listening, they're not going through fertility struggle, they can relate to something else in their life that you know, feels like really big and heavy to them, but maybe is too much for, for them for their husband at the time, and kind of the process of how to manage that experience when you're not able to share that with your husband at the time. So I hope that could be helpful. Yeah. So actually, by the time the next morning came, I was feeling better and not feeling like I had to push it. And my husband didn't bring it up, so we never actually did talk about it, which was fine. Like I didn't feel the need anymore. A lot of times the moment could feel like really big, or and then with a little bit of breathing room and perspective, things could feel different. So,
Wow.
um, yeah,
Wow. That's huge. That's so huge because so many people, in the moments and they're, let's say, being led by their emotions or their deep desires, or it just feels so pressing. And you gave yourself that space to just process, to think about it, to see where you're really coming from, and give it literally space, like time and space. Give yourself a night and see how you felt in the morning. And you were fine. You didn't feel the desperate need to talk about it anymore.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I was, during those few months, it was about 4 months from the time that I was taking this approach to when things changed, but I didn't really have a lot of feedback on that things were improving. I just knew that I'm giving my husband space and I was doing my own internal process, but it wasn't, I had my wins, but I couldn't really see any progress necessarily. But there was one moment when I was taking a pregnancy test, and my husband was standing right there, and for that brief moment, I could feel that he was, hoping that this would be positive, and we're able to share that experience together. And for me at the time, I remember thinking like, this is only because I'm giving him space. Like if had I not been doing things this way, I don't know if we would have been able to share that moment. Might have been very pressuring or overwhelming. So that was. It's always nice when you could see the fruits of your labor. So that was a nice experience. Other than that, I was just trusting, working on my trust in Hashem and doing my part. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, after 4 months, did you want to
Wait,
ask
can I
something?
just pause for a second? Yeah, because that's, I love that because first of all, you could be so discouraged, like, trying so hard. And this is supposedly like your keili to be able to bring a child into this role is like you chose for this to be the keili. And then to feel like there's nothing really progressing when it comes to Shalom Bayis. Like obviously things are maybe, just good, but you're not feeling like you're getting that feedback like that you're the most amazing wife in the world, you know.
Right.
um but I love that you noticed that moment, because you could have gone through that moment and totally not noticed it, but you noticed how beautiful this moment is, where we're both like waiting to see what the results are going to be. And this is precious. Like, it's not loaded, it's light. This is so beautiful, both of us together. And you really saw that as a win, and saw how that was a direct result of all the space that you were giving to him.
Yeah.
So it was subtle, but it was very much there.
Yes. Yeah. Very much.
Beautiful. Okay,
Yeah,
wait. I
because,
have another big question for you. This is a digression, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. And maybe you're going to bring this up after. But what I'm also hearing is, like, from the beginning of what you were sharing, there's a lot of loneliness there. Tremendous amount of loneliness throughout everything that you were going through with this whole infertility journey. And even at this point where you're sharing, there's still an element of loneliness, because you're working on things yourself and you're trying to see if there's like any feedback, and you're not necessarily getting the feedback that you would hope for. So I want to like take a moment and talk about how you've worked through that loneliness, because I think that's a huge piece, and that's something that everyone can relate to. Like, everyone has experienced something like that. And it sounds like you've had some sort of journey around it.
yeah. Yeah. Great question. So, the loneliness was definitely, I would say, the hardest part of my first experience with trying for my second child. Um, and here I found myself again, at times feeling lonely, and like I'm doing this on my own, which was hard. But there was a very big difference between the loneliness of my trying for the previous pregnancy and this time, because at the time before, the loneliness wasn't just like I'm in this on my own, and we're in two different worlds, but there was also so much tension around it, and so much resentment and judgment on how my husband was being there for me, or going about getting his own support, um, which just really exacerbated that even more. And here it was very clear. It was like, yes, I wish that we could be in this together. Like, that was really hard. And and there is a loss there, and that's something to you know to have someone support you with, or even just to know for yourself. Like, that's hard. Um, at the same time, because there wasn't all of this other tension around it, it was just that. It was just like, this is not something that I could share with my husband at the time, rather than it being so much more than that, like with all the extra baggage of, the judgment and the resentment and everything else around that. And it was hard. It wasn't always easy. I remember my husband asked me one day, like, how is it that this is not hard for you? Like, how is it that you are not, it seems like you're unscathed from the last experience, and you're just ready to, like, to work on things and go ahead and try for another one. Like, how is it that this is not, like, haunting you? And I remember thinking, like the only thing that's haunting me right now is that this is still a big deal for you. And I wanted to, I really felt like saying that, but I didn't. And I'm really happy that I was able to, like, keep that in and maybe share that with someone else, because while it's so natural and so understandable why that was coming up for me, and why I would have wanted to share that, it also just wouldn't have served me or my husband to share that in that moment. And a few moments later, or a few days later, I don't even feel the need to share that anymore. So,
Oh,
I'm really grateful that I was able to have the tools to know what I did want to share, what I should share, what I don't want to share, what I'm doing here. What I'm trying to create, which was space for my husband and his journey.
I just think it's so amazing, like listening to that piece, because a lot of people think that like when we create space, there's going to be distance. And it's so scary for someone who's already experienced loneliness to feel like, oh, I'm just going to lean into that and create more distance. How is that helping me? Right. And what I'm hearing from your story is you did so much on your end when you gave him your space. You also owned your space. You you're in relationship, you have a lot of people, colleagues you could speak to. You were like leaning on a coach at the time. And like a tremendous amount of bitachon building is what I'm hearing. A lot of like this inner work that you're doing, and all of that coming together felt less like loneliness and felt less like distance, but more just like owning your space. And like I hear so much confidence when you're describing how you felt a need to talk to him, but then you gave yourself a few hours or a night or a few days, and then decided consciously whether or not you wanted to still talk about it. Like there's so much courage and I don't know, just like feminine power there that I'm hearing that was, I think I'm hearing coming up for you there. That I think that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. And the only way I was able to do this was with the relationship principles and support. So it's so
Wow.
important to take ownership of what you need because you do need support. Question is, what exactly does that support have to look like? Does it have to be how does it have to be my husband and I doing this together? And while I would have wanted that more than anything, it just wasn't really an option at the time. Like, even if I did share that with my husband, I knew that wouldn't have gotten me what I was really looking for. Um, so that also helps to just be realistic and know, yes, this is what I want more than anything, but like, is it even is it even realistic that if I share that with my husband, I'm going to get that? And the answer was like, definitely not.
Wow. I hear you. So, like, your desire was to journey through this with him. But in that moment of feeling like I really want to share something with my husband, will it actually give me that feeling of we're in this journey together? Maybe not, right? Like, sometimes what we're searching for and we think we'll get out of whatever it is that we're pursuing is not necessarily the result that we're going to get. And we're kind of building castles.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm hearing like this question of, is it really truly serving me? Was probably a question you asked yourself a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes in an effort, this is something I see with women often, is that in an effort to get that connection and that feeling that we're looking for, we actually end up pushing our husbands away. When it's not when there's something else in the way, whether it's a husband needing space at the time or judgment or whatever's getting in the way of that. Sometimes in an effort to solidify that unity or that connection or that experience of doing something together, we end up, really pushing it further away. So that's where these perspectives and these principles are so empowering to help us to really notice, like, what is it that we really want, and maybe there's a longer, shorter way to get there, but we'll actually be able to get what we're looking for.
Great.
So about 4 months after I was intentionally choosing to have my Shalom Bayis be the keili for bracha and, not to push this at all. My husband came to me one day and he was ready to try a segula. He was ready to do something. He was feeling also like he wanted to move things along, um, which was like such a pleasant surprise. Like, I didn't necessarily see it coming at all. Um, and at that time, I remember thinking wow, this is really nice, but it didn't feel like, oh, like finally now we could do the segula that's going to bring us the bracha. At the time, I had already come to a place of like, I don't need to do any other segula to bring the bracha. Like I know I'm doing my part,
Wow.
but I really would love to. Like, I enjoy hosting a shir, and brings brachas, and it was something that I did right before I had my daughter. So, it felt personal and special to me. So, so I asked my husband if that was something he'd be open to doing. And yes, he was very excited. He was like really into this year, wanting to get really nice refreshments and, helping me clean up. It's hard to host a 6 week, recurring share. And each week he would help me prepare for it. So, that was really nice to even just have that so much positive energy and him like really being in it and ready to do something. Um, and
That's amazing.
amazing. Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
I feel like so many times women, they'll, let's say, do what you have done, which is like, I'm going to let go of the expectation, but I need to keep on expressing that desire because how will he know? Like he'll never come to it. Like I need to keep making sure to plant those seeds. And you just let go, and he didn't forget, right? Like he knows what your desires are. He knew, where you were at, and when he was ready, he still voiced it. Like he came to it, he returned to it. So many times a woman feels like he's never going to get there if I don't push him, if I don't remind him, if I don't, dot dot dot. But he did. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, Baruch Hashem. So, yeah, so here we were planning a share, um, and a day. I don't remember the exact, chronological order, but it was either the day of the share or the day after the share. I found out that I was expecting. And I was like totally unexpected. I remember, I like took, a pregnancy test and didn't go back to check on it for like a few hours. Um, and then, when I like thought about it for a minute, I was like, wait a minute, like I was actually expecting before the share even started. So it was like, wow, like like all that was needed was for my husband to come around and be ready, and then Hashem was like, here you go. I didn't like the shear was not needed. It was just the shalom was really the keili for the bracha. So that was really really powerful to see and experience.
Incredible. That is so, so incredible.
Yeah.
Such a bracha.
Yeah, and then the like what was so beautiful to see was also just like okay, so now I had my feedback, right? So the whole time I'm just doing my part, but I don't really necessarily know, how things are going to work out in the end. And here it was like okay, like this worked out, and now we just got to enjoy the joy of that without all the baggage of what we had the previous time, with all the feelings that were kind of lingering during the pregnancy. Here we were just in such a good place. And that was like so beautiful to notice that like this was hard. It wasn't easy. It wasn't like, okay, like this is my keili for my breath and I don't have to worry. Like it was active working on it, had to keep trying and trying and to stay, in that place. Um but comparing the hardship of the first of the last time, how pre-relationship, obviously difficult because of the fertility treatment also, but the whole process and the whole emotional experience and how that impacted our relationship, and then looking at this experience, and you can't even compare the hardship of the previous experience to the hardship of this experience. It was like night and day. So yes, it was hard, and sometimes this work feels hard, right? It's not always just a walk in the park and like, oh,
Right.
I have this principle, so now nothing's hard. Like sometimes it's hard work, and it takes a lot of active effort and and getting support, and all those different things. And um, but the hard of it's like the longer shorter way or the shorter longer way, right? So like I understand myself and how I was feeling when I was trying, in the experience by my daughter, and how things were. So like I understand why I felt that judgment towards my husband. I understand why I felt, like I had a right to do things my way, or like I still understand where I was coming from. It was a very difficult experience. At the same time, you know, it might have felt good in the moment to be able to say those things or think those things or do those things, but ultimately, when I was able to do the hard work of doing this a different way, that was way easier in the end. And there are some principles or some experiences that you might have that you master, you figure out this new way of doing things, and it works, and it does come easier. And then there are times when bigger challenges and things that do require more effort. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to put that out there. Like, it's not always so hard, right? Like, there are things that there are times when the principle is like so helpful and just makes things so much easier. And then there are times when it requires more effort and work around it, and long term thinking.
So beautiful. So, so incredible. Wow. So how was this third pregnancy?
Yeah, so I mean, it had its own complications in other ways, but emotionally it was really such a joy. And just seeing my husband, so um, just being in such a good place, and it was such a nice redemptive experience, and Baruch Hashem. And yeah, it's really beautiful when you could go through a really hard time and your Shalom Bayis not be challenged in that way. Right? There are things that we go through that could really challenge Shalom Bayis, and to be able to go through something hard, and I've experienced this in other areas as well, to be able to go through a hard time, a test, and be able to have your Shalom Bayis intact is such a bracha, and such a gift to be able to experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a gift because the opposite is so intense, right? Like as if the challenge is not enough to also feel like you're not on the same page, or the pain between a couple. I don't know. I know for myself, if we're not in the best place between me and my husband, I feel like the world is tilting and I'm just sliding off the edge. It's just what it feels like. And that's hard enough without having this challenge that you're both going through.
Yeah.
Such an incredible story, Shayna. Seriously. I mean, I know that I'm sure like I said in the beginning, there are so many parts to every person's story, but what I hear in what you've created is so immense. And the power and courage that it took to do that, and the person that you are today, it's just so exemplary and beautiful. And I feel inspired and honored to have witnessed it. Truly.
Thank you, Baruch Hashem, and I'm so grateful to have been um, have been brought to relationship, and to be in this place where I could share this gift with others. So thank you for everything that you do to help run this program, and Sargita, of course.
Yeah. Huge shout out to Sargita. Okay. So Shayna, I want to do a little rapid fire. I don't know if you're up for that.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
not scary. It's whatever comes to mind. Yeah, I'm not trying to I'm totally putting you on the spot, but that's not what you're supposed to be feeling. It's just fun. It's always fun to end with something fun.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. Um, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book. I don't know that I have a favorite, but I have one that I'm waiting to read. Was actually gifted to me by a client, so feels appropriate to
Nice.
mention. Shaina Ginsberg's Your Awesome Self. One of my clients said she found a lot of the ideas to be very aligned with relationships, and she like just basically making chassidus practical. So I'm excited to get to read that.
Life-changing book, definitely on the favorite list. I can't wait for you to go there. highly, highly recommend you reading through it with a group. Like make a group and do it together, like a few chapters each time. It is such a profound experience. Okay, love that. It's a great one. Okay, ready for this one?
Yeah.
You're a writer. What, what genre do you love writing? Like what are some of the pieces that you've loved to create? Talk to us about that.
I love writing personal narratives. That's
Nice.
my personal favorite. I feel like I really understand the experience even better after I write about it, and I love to share that. So that's my personal favorite.
Beautiful. Okay. What's your favorite form of self-care?
I love a good chat with a friend, going on a walk with a friend, and just catching up and staying in touch with the people that I care about.
What's your favorite era? What's your favorite era in history or Jewish history?
Jewish history. So I always was fascinated by the idea of the Beis Hamikdash. So I would have loved to live at a time where we can go to the Beis Hamikdash. It just the idea of having like a physical place that's so beautiful and like you feel the awe of Hashem there, the tangible part of that. That would be really cool.
I love that. Did you ever do one of those virtuals of the Beis Hamikdash?
Yeah, I just did this past summer. It was I loved it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was on a high for a few days. So special to see it, to look around. I was just like crying from joy
Yeah.
being there when I wasn't quite there, but it was virtually there. It was so special. Love
Highly.
that. Love that. Love that. Okay, so Shana, first of all, thank you. And I just want to, if there's any parting message that you want to share with our audience, please share.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add a little disclaimer that I know that there are so many different types of struggles that people go through with infertility, and to all those that are still waiting, I just want to send my support. And I know that it's the alternative methods that worked for me are not something that would work for everybody. Um, and I just want to be sensitive to that. Um, and the idea that my intention in sharing this story is not only to shed light on a fertility struggle, but really to see for people to see how this the details of the struggle could relate in their life, even if it has nothing to do with fertility. So I hope that message is clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you shared so humbly, and it's so clear that there's nothing that you're taking for granted. So I think our audience will know that and see that. And I also think that our audience will know that and see that the specific challenge that you went through doesn't have to necessarily be her specific challenge. There's so much to still gain and hear from your story and how you navigated everything that you navigated by implementing those principles. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you, Shaina.
Okay, thank you.
We would love to hear your feedback, thoughts, and questions.
Please leave a comment below or email us at yourrelationship@gmail.com.
Looking forward to connecting with you.
See you next time.